Hello everyone, in this video I'm gonna solve IBHI Mathematics Paper 2 questions from this year. This is time zone 2, which is taken Africa, Middle East and European countries. It has been a really enjoyable, exciting and important year for me as I started posting mathematics tutorial videos. I'm happy to share this journey with you. Thank you for watching and let's start with the question 1.
Question 1. The following table shows the number of hours of playtime x and sleep time y for a group of 6 children over the period of 1 week. The regression line of y on x for this data can be written in the form y equals a times x plus b. Find the value of a and the value of b. So we're going to calculate the regression line equation now. There's a section for here on TI, and I'm going to find it directly on another application, but you can find it on your TI. You will just choose the spreadsheet list, and then you're gonna choose the regression line from there after that. And I'm gonna plug in x values and y values onto the list now. The x values is 11, 13, 14, 17, 11, 13, 14, 17, 22, 24, 22, 24, and the y values is 60, 62, 65, 66. Yeah, and the other y values 75, 84, 87. 75, 84, 87. Yeah, let's calculate now. And we found the regression line equation. I will just write this one. y equals y equals 1 point, let's say 98. It should be 3 significant here, times x plus the constant value is 40.2. 40.2, right. Question B, use the equation of the regression line to estimate the sleep time of a child whose weekly playtime is 20 hours. So I will just plug in 20 into this equation and I will find estimate the sleep time for a child. So y equals 1.98 times 20 plus 40.2, okay? 1.98 times 20 plus 40.3. Let me check again. Here is gonna be 2. So 79.8. 79.8. Yeah. Question 2. The following diagram shows a square-based right pyramid with vertex V 170, point x minus 3, 4, 2 is the center of the base ABCD. Find Vx. We know that the vertex point 170 and the point x minus 3, 4, 2. In this case, we can find the length of Vx, which is gonna be square root of the difference and square of the difference of this dimensions. For example, 1 minus 3 square plus 7 minus 4 square plus, let's say, 0 minus 2 square, which will be 4 square 16, 3 square 9, and 2 square is 4. It's going to be square root of 29. We can calculate this. Square root of 29. It is 5.39. 5.39. Yeah. Find AC. You see that AC is here. Diagonal of the square. And I know that the square base has side length 5, which means AC equals from the Pythagoras. You can find square root of 5 square plus 5 square, square root of 50. Let's calculate this one. Square root of 50, 7.07. 7.07, yeah. And the last question is find the size of the angle between the HVC and the base of the pyramid. So it asks for this angle, let's call it alpha. Where we can find this alpha, you see that we found Vx at the previous question, and I know the length of AC. So to use the both of this length or side in right angle triangle, because I know that this angle is right. So the best way is to use tangent, right? If we find tangent, which is Vx, over, by the way, you don't need to write this one. Vx over, let's say, half of AC or XC, right? Okay, we know that the length of VC from the previous question, but I want to use square root of 29 to not make a mistake because when you write the estimate number, you can find the wrong number. But if you write in here the exact number of or the value of these expressions, you will not make a mistake. So it will be square root of 50 over 2. Okay, square root of 29 divided by square root of 50. We can say divided by 2, 1.52. But actually, we're gonna find the angle. So in this case, I need the inverse of tangent. In parentheses, you can write this value. So it will give us the angle, right? I will use this one inside of tangent, inverse of tangent. So which is 56.7. This is degree. Yeah, it is acceptable. Question 3. The derivative of a function f is given by f prime equals 4 plus 2x minus 3 times e to the x, where x is a real number. Find the values of x for which f is decreasing. So if you are looking for where the function is decreasing, we're going to use the derivative of the function and it needs to be less than 0, which means 4 plus 2x minus 3 times e to the power of x is going to be less than 0. So I will use the graph of this function 4 plus 2x minus 3 times e to the power of x, right? Let me check it again. So to show that where you find the answer, you need to draw also the function, I mean the graph of the function. You will just graph like this and mention the x-intercept because the sign of this function will be changed according to the x-intercept, right? So the first one is minus 1.74, okay, and the second one is 0.518. Yeah, this one. So we are looking for where the function is negative. In this case, as you see it in the function graph, if x values is less than minus 1.74 or the x values is greater than 0.518, and you can accept this values too, right? And the question B, find the values of x for which the graph of f is concave up. So to check where the function is concave up, we're gonna use the second derivative, which means the derivative of this f prime. I know that derivative of the constant value is 0, and the derivative of 2x is gonna be 2, and the derivative of 3 times e to the power of x will be the same with itself. So we are looking for where this function gonna be greater than 0 to be concave up, okay? So now I will graph this one, 2 minus 3, 2 minus 3 e to the power of x, and you can draw a graph like this one. So which means the x-intercept gonna be minus 0.405. As you see from the graph that the second derivative will be greater than 0 when x less than minus 0.405, right? Question 4, Alex purchased a car for 30,000 euro. The value of the car depreciates at 15% per annum. Find the value of the car after 10 years. Give your answer to two decimal places. So his car is now 30,000 euro, but its value is depreciates 50%, which means that every year it's decreasing by 50%. And we are looking for in 10 years the real value of this car, right? So this is the geometric sequence, and I will multiply 30,000 by 0.85 to the power of 10. 30,000 times 0.85 to the power of 10 It's gonna be 5,906.23. Yeah. The second question is, Alex invests 50,000 euro in a bank account that pays a compound interest rate of 1.5% per month. Inflation over the same time period was 0.8% per month. Find the number of months required for the real value of the investment to first exceed 5,000 euro. So we know that the compound interest rate is 1.5, but at the same time period, the inflation is 0.8%, which means that real rate, to find the real rate, we're gonna subtract 1.5%, from this number to 0.8%, right? So the real rate is 0.8, 0.7%. And he invests 50,000 euro. So and the formula you can check from the formula booklet also is 1 plus 0.7 divided by 100, the power of number of the months. By the way, in formula booklet, if you, for example, check for the formula, you will see that when we apply for this question, 50,000 times in parentheses 1 plus 0.7 times, for example, 12 because it's component monthly, and you will already divide it by also 12. So it will not change anything. Like the n is the number of the month. So we write the same thing actually. So this value will exceed 55,000. How are we gonna find this value? You can also write in here, for example, 0.007 to the power of n will exceed 55 over 50, right? So I will draw the graph of this 1.0007 to the power of x. Let me check it again. Now, yeah, and the value was, you can draw a line 55 divided by 50. As you see from the graph, first, for example, this line, the blue line, is greater than the function, but after this intersection point, which is 13.66, 13.66, the function, which is red one, is becoming greater than the line, right? So we are looking for this range, and I will accept the integer 14. Yeah, but you can mention where did you find this value by drawing this graph also, right? Yeah, like this. You can first draw the line y equals 1.1, this one, and then you can just say, yeah, the function becoming greater than this line after 13.66. Yeah. Question 5. A particle P moves in a straight line. The velocity v of P at time t seconds is given by v of t equals e to the power of minus sine t times cosine 2t, where t between 0 and 5. Find the maximum speed of P. So we know the formula of the v of t, the velocity of this particle. And it asks for the maximum speed. So we're gonna look for the graph of this function and actually find the maximum point, but this particle can go either positive way or negative way. We're gonna check for the maximum value of the absolute of this function. So which means I will check maximum value of the absolute of this function. Let's draw this function e to the power of e to the power of minus sine x times cosine 2x, right? Yeah, we're looking for the domain of this function is between 0 and 5. So I will draw the function in this range. It's going like, yeah, somewhere in here. Okay. So as you see from the graph, we're gonna check on this point, right? This gonna be the maximum at the absolute value. So 3 pi over 2 minus 2.72 is gonna be 3 pi over 2 minus 2.72. In this case, the maximum value of this function will be the absolute value of the number and which give us 2.72. At the second question, find the total distance traveled by p. So which means that I know this is the graph of VOT, and we're looking for the total distance traveled by p. So we're gonna find the integral of this function, right? From 0 to 5 the time. But again, for the absolute value of this function, because I will take for the negative side and the positive side uh, the distance traveled by this particle. So I'm looking for this integral. Yeah, let's find this one. Do not forget to write differential of t. Yeah, I wrote again the function and the value is 3.85. 3.85. At the last question, find the acceleration when p changes direction for the second time. So when you check the, for example, the graph of VOT, the second time for this particle changing its direction is here. So I'm looking for the second intersection, which is gonna be 3 pi over 4. 3 pi over 4, what's that 3 pi over 4? 3 pi over 4 meaning 2.36. So it's gonna be 2.36. You can say that from the graph, right? 2.36. But what is acceleration? This is the derivative of the velocity function. So I will check the derivative of this function, the v prime, gonna be, or we don't need to write the v prime. I mean like so we will just calculate this one, right? And you can mention in here again from the graph, you found this value. So here is the point 2.36, and let's calculate this derivative function. So we're gonna find the derivative of the function, and when we write the function and derivative of this at the point 3 pi over 4, because we found that this is the point 3 pi over 4, right? You can also mention that this is 3 pi over 4. So in this case, you plug in 3 pi over 4 into this derivative function, 0.99 or 0.986. Yeah. You can directly calculate from the TI. That's you're gonna write the function and the point where you are looking for the derivative. Question 6. The following diagram shows a circle with center O and radius R. Points A and B lie on the circle and the angle AOB equals theta radians. Sector OAB is divided into two regions, a shaded segment P and a triangle Q. The area of the shaded segment P is 12.8 centimeters square. The areas of P and Q are in the ratio 3 over 5. Find the value of R. We know that this area, it is 12.8, and the ratio between these two areas. So I'm going to use the ratio first, which is, for example, the area of the P is 12.8 and over Q equals 3 over 5. From here, you can say theta equals 64 over 3. And how we can use, for example, Q, area of Q is a triangle. So we can, if we write, for example, our Q will be, it is 1 over 2 times R, which is the side of this triangle, is the radius at the same time of the circle, times sine theta, right? So it will give us the area of this triangle, which is 64 over 3. And at the same time, uh, area of sector, or let's say, yeah, P plus Q in this case, will be theta times r square over 2, right? I know that the formula of area of the sector. So how about the P plus Q? It is 12.8 plus 64 over 3 will be theta times r square over 2. So I know this equation. For example, r squared times sine theta over 2 equals 64 over 3. And at the other side, theta times r squared over 2 equals this number, right? I still didn't calculate. And If you, for example, divided each other, we can say that r square over 2 will be cancelled, and I can write sine theta over theta, right? So let's calculate this one, 64 over 3, and we're gonna divide it by the number 12.8 and same, right? It's gonna be 0.625, 0.625. From here we can find theta. To do that, I will use the graphic calculator. I know sine x, and I need, for example, other function 0.625 times x, because from here, right, if you make a cross product, right? Yeah. So how about the intersection of the two uh, function? It's gonna be 1.60, right? Let's say 1.60. Or to find, for example, r, because as for the r, and we can use, for example, this formula, right? I will write directly what is r, because it's gonna be, let's say, theta times r square equals 2 times this number, and in this case r will be square root of, yeah, the expression here. So I will use this value, this one, to calculate r, square root of times 12.8 plus 64 over 3 divided by theta, the value that we copy. So it is approximately 6.53. Yeah. Question 7, a geometric sequence has first term 80 and fourth term 0.74088. Find the second term. So I know that the first term and the fourth term. So I can find, for example, the common ratio by dividing these two numbers, right? So it will give us the r to the power of 3. To find r, I will find the cube root of this fraction. Let's find this first. Yeah, cube root 0.0.74088 divided by 80. It is 0.21, 0.21, and it asks for the second term, so I can find by multiply it with the first term. 80 times 0.21 is gonna be 16.8. Yeah, the first two terms of this geometric sequence are also the first term and 11th term respectively of an arithmetic sequence. Let Sn denote the sum of the first n terms of the arithmetic sequence. Find the greatest value of Sn, giving your answer to two decimal places. So the first two terms, it says this one 80 and 16.8. It's gonna be the first term and 11th term. Let's say A1 is 80 and A sub 11 16.8. In this case, I can find the common difference. A sub 11 equals A sub 1 plus 10 times D, right? So 16.8 equals 80 plus 10 times common difference. Common difference can be 16.8 minus 80 over 10. Let's calculate this one. Yeah, minus 6.32. Yeah, it asks for the Sn, which is the sum of the n terms. And how are we gonna find this one? The greatest value of Sn. For example, to make the first n terms the greatest value, as you see from here, the 12th term will be 16.8 minus 6.32, and the 13th term will be less than this number, by subtracting 6.32. So let's calculate this one. 13 term, the term 13 will be 10.48. Sorry, this is the 12th term, 10.48. And the 13 term, 10.48 minus 6.32, right? Because it's decreasing. In this case, I will find this one, 4 point, let's say, 16. So if I subtract again the 6.32, it's gonna be negative. So I don't want it because I will add all of this number. So we have now sum of this 13 term. The formula is 13 over 2 times, in parentheses, you can write 2 times a1 plus 13 minus 1 times the common difference is 6.32. Let's find this one times, in parentheses, let's say 160 plus 12 times, or minus 12 times 6.32. Yeah, it's gonna be 547. 547. We can also write point 4. Yeah. Question 8. The marks obtained by students in a class quiz are shown in the following table, where P and Q is a positive integer. The mean and variance of the marks are 31 and 124 respectively. Find the value of P and the value of Q. Let's start with the mean. Mean is given that 31, so I'm gonna apply the formula. First, we're gonna multiply the marks with frequency and sum all of them. 20 times 12 plus 35 times Q plus 8 times P, or P times 8. And we're gonna divide it the total number of the students, which is 12 plus Q plus 8, right? From here, you can simplify this equation. At the denominator is going to be 20 plus q, and numerator will be 240 plus. Yeah. And we can again make a cross product in here. It's going to be 620 plus 31q equals 240 plus 35q plus 8p. So let's subtract 240 and 31q from both sides, and we're gonna have at the left 380, at the right side 4q plus 8p, right? We can divide it by 4, we can cancel 4. 95 equals q plus 2p. So what is variance? You can check from the formal booklet, and it's given that 124, and I will find it again at the denominator, same the total number of the students. At the numerator, we will find the distance between the marks and the mean. For example, if the marks is 20, it means the distance from the mean gonna be 20 minus 31, which is mean, and square, we will take square of this number plus, in same manner, and also we're going to multiply it by 12, the frequency of this students. So the students who take 35 mark, the distance between mean gonna be 35 minus 31, and square of it times, again we're gonna multiply it by the frequency of the students, and same will be p minus 31 square times 8, right? So let's simplify this equation again. We can make a cross product. 2480 plus 124q equals, let's say, 121 times 12, and plus 16q plus e minus 31 squared times 8. And if you replace, for example, you first write q in terms of p, q equals 95 minus 2p. So I'm gonna replace q with this number, 2480 plus 124 times instead of q, I'm gonna write this expression 95 minus 2p. Yeah, so we will use ti to do that. I'm replacing again. Yeah, from here we can find p. uh yeah, you can find from the numerical solve, but I will solve it by drawing the graph. Let's find the intersection point. It's gonna be 48.17. Sorry, it's gonna be 8 in here, right? Yeah, this is 8. I will change it and calculate it again. Yeah, this is gonna be 45.31. 45. We can say 45, right? Yeah, since the numbers are integer. And how are we gonna find the q? Because we know that the equation q equals 95 minus 2 times p, which is 95 minus 2 times 45. 95 minus 90, it is 5. Question 9, a line L sub 1 has vector equation R. The plane I sub 1 contains the line L1 and passed through the point 215. Show that the Cartesian equation of the plane pi sub 1 is x plus y minus z equals minus 2. We have a plane in here, namely it is pi sub 1. It contains L1, the line, and I know the initial point of L sub 1 is this one, 0, 0, 2. I'm going to call it the point A, 0, 0, 2. And we know the direction vector of the line 1, 0, 1, 1, 0, 1. And I know that the point on the plane 215, 215. Let's call it B. So to find the equation of this plane, I will find the normal vector, so which is perpendicular to plane. So how we're gonna find this normal vector? For example, if I find the vector AB and I know the direction vector of the line, and vector product of these two vector will give us the normal vector, right? So what is AB? It's gonna be 2 minus 0. I'm subtracting the point B from the point B to A, and 1 minus 0, 5 minus 2, right? So it is 2, 1, 3. And the direction vector is 1, 0, 1. Yeah, we're gonna find the vector product of these two vector, 2, 1, 3, 1, 0, 1. So what is vector product? You can find on the formal booklet. This one I will take, and we're gonna use this formula, right? So it will give us this one, V2 W3. It's gonna be here 1 times 1 minus V3, this one with 0, 3 times 0, and V3 W1, 3 times 1 minus V1, this one, 2 times 1, and V1 W2, 2 times 0 minus V2 W1, and 1 times 1. In this case, this is 1, and 3 minus 2 is 1, and 0 minus 1 is minus 1. So we found the normal vector. In this case, we can write the equation of the plane like 1 times x plus 1 times y minus z will give us the constant. Let's call it d. So how we're going to find this d? I know the point which is on the plane, 215. I'm going to plug in this equation 215. 2 plus 1 minus 5, which is minus 2, right? So I know that the plane is x plus y minus z equals minus 2. So yeah, we found this, right? Yeah. Right, the second question, consider the three planes that are pi sub 1, pi sub 2, and pi sub 3. The three planes intersect the line. Find the value of P and the value of D. Yeah, so let's write this plain equation first. I would like to first add all of this equation with each other. So first we can write 4x. In this case, y will be cancelled plus b, by. As you see, z is also cancelled equals d plus 1, right? Let's check it again. Mhm. And for example, you can also cancel z by first multiplying pi sub 1 with minus 1. And we're gonna add this to pi sub 2. So it will give us first x plus y in parentheses b minus 1. And z will be cancelled, will be equal to 5, right? So I will write it in here also. Yeah. I'm gonna now cancel x by multiplying the second equation with minus 4, and it will give us y from the first one b, from the second one minus 4b plus 4 will be equal minus 20 plus d plus 1. Yeah, this one. Y in parentheses 4 minus 3b equals d minus 19. Here we have. So from here, how we gonna find, for example, if y is 0, which means nine, from here I would like to write y equals 9 minus 19 divided by 4 minus 3b. So if y is, let's say, 0, which means b minus 19 equals 0. In this case, 9 is, d is 19. But if y is 0, eh, it means we can find the other values x and z by plugging this y into, for example, the equations. In this case, we will find the intersection point, not the line, if we found the y. And if, for example, here is not 0, but some other real number, let's say y is in same manner less. Right side is 5, the left side is 3. This is the same, it will give us y as a point, and we're gonna plug in into this equation, and we will find the other point also. It will again give us two intersection point, not the line. So how are we gonna find the intersection line? It means both denominator and numerator and denominator will be 0, because which means that y can be any other real number, and let's call it, for example, t, and we're gonna find x and y in terms of t, which will give us a line, not a point, because on the line there are infinity points on the line, right? So 4 minus 3b will also give us 0. From here, you can say b is 4 over 3. Question 10. At Adam's apple orchard, the whites of apples, W in grams, are normally distributed with a mean 175 grams and standard deviation 8 grams. Find the probability that a randomly chosen apple weighs less than 170 grams. Yeah, it asks for the probability less than 170 grams. And I know that this is normally distributed function, so I'm gonna use calculating. So let's find this. 175 mean and 8 grams standard deviation. 175 mean, 8 is standard deviation. I'm looking for less than, right? Less than 170. So yeah, 170, it will give us 0.20, let's say 266. Yeah. At the second question, it's found that 20% of the apples weigh more than W grams. Find W correct for significant figures. We are looking for the apples weigh more than W grams. W, and it is probability is zero point 0.2, right? And let's find this now. So this is inverse of the probability distribution, inverse can we write in here? Yeah, it's gonna be more than, right? So I will choose the greater, more than, raised, right? So it will be 181.7. 181.7, yeah. Question C. All orchards classify an apple as premium when its weight is between 170 and 185 grams. Find the percentage of apples that are classified as premium at Adams Apple Orchard. And the apples between 170 and 185 will give us the premium apple, right? So we're gonna find the percentage of apples or probability, let's say. First one, which is less than 170, 170, it is this number. I'm gonna copy this, and then less than 185, and I copy this number. So I will subtract from the greater than one, the small one. It is 0.60 or 0.628, right? Because I found the area first uh, below 170, and then I found the area of which is under 185. Yeah, and then subtracting, I found the area between these two numbers. At the question D, after orders are completed, there are many apples left over. Boxes are filled with randomly chosen leftover apples. Each box contains 40 apples. Find the probability that the randomly chosen box contain at least 30 premium apples. So this is binomial distribution probability. Yeah, we will calculate this one. So you can write binomial. We're gonna choose from 30 boxes, and at least it says 30 premium apples. So I will write in here the probability of that we found in the previous question, the premium apple. Uh, it's gonna be 0.628. What we found, 36. It's better to write the exact number to not make a mistake. And then, yeah, X is related with this binomial distribution probability. So we are looking for the X's, which is, let's say, at least 30 premium apples, right? X is greater than 30 premium apples. Let's find this by using the binomial distribution. Total number is 40. We're gonna look for the greater than 30, and the probability is 0.62836. This one, and it is approximately 0.0739, let's say 0.0739, right? Yeah. Question E. If 10 of these boxes are randomly selected, find the probability that exactly 4 boxes have at least 30 premium apples. Now we are looking for 10 of these boxes are selected, and exactly 4 boxes, which means now let's say the y value related with the binomial number or distribution, and there are 10 boxes. From 10 boxes, we're gonna choose, and we found the probability at least 30 premium apples in the previous question, 0.0739. In this case, we are looking for the probability y equals 4, right? Let's check it again. Yeah, y equals 4. Now we are looking for this, and I will write here 10, 4, and the probability that we found 0.0739, 0.0739, yeah, 0.00395, this one. But we found the estimate number at the previous question, so it's should could be better to write the exact probability in here. It was something like 386, let's say. When you change this number, let's check it again. You see that the probability changed, so I will write instead for here. Yeah, the last question is at a neighboring orchard, the weights of apples m in grams are normally distributed with mean nu and standard deviation sigma. It is known that 82% of their apples are classified as premium. The percentage of apples that weigh less than 170 grams is twice the percentage of apples that weigh more than 185 grams. Find the value of nu. And the probability of that classified as premium, which was given in the question between 170 and 185. Let's write this one. This is 82%, so 0.82, meaning that here is 170 and here is new, the mean, and 185. We know that the area between here 0.82. So and I look for the percentage of apples that was less than, and I know that here this place, for example, here is the area is said as this. For example, if the area is 2p and greater than 185 is p, the area of here. So first we can find the probability less than 170, which will give us 2p, and then we can find the probability less than 185, which will give us 1 minus p, because I know that the total area is going to be 1. In this case, we can just calculate this probability, but to do that, or you can just add all of this probability to p plus 0.82 plus p will give us 1, the total area. 3p will be 0.18 and p will be 0.06. So, for example, we found the probability of less than 117.12 in this case, and the probability of less than 185, it will give us 0.94, right? So how are we gonna find it asks for the new, and we're gonna use the z-score. To find the z-score, you can calculate from the TI also, you know that the inverse normal distribution, if you, for example, choose the area 0.12 and it's already be, for example, default this mean and standard deviation 0 and 1. So the probability is actually the z-score is minus 1.175. We can say that z-score of this minus 1.1 was 75. Yeah. So how about the other z-score for the probability 0.94? It is 1.5548. So there is a formula in formula booklet also you can find. And for example, to use this first equation probability, you're going to say that 170 minus mean divided by standard deviation will give us the first z-score, which is minus 1.175. And for the second equation, you will do the same. 185 minus mean over standard deviation will give us the other z-score, 1.5548. So from here, we're going to find the new, right? So at the first equation, that is 170 minus nu equals this number times sigma, and it will give us nu, which is 170 plus 1.175 sigma. And from the other equation, 185 minus nu equals sigma times 1.5548, and nu equals, let's say, in here 185 minus sigma times 1.55. for 8. And let's make an equality between these two equations. And to find sigma first in here. And then you can say that 15 over, let's append the page. 15 over, let's say, what will be 1.17, yeah, 1.175 plus, what's that, the other one? 1.5548 will give us sigma 1 point this one plus 5548, right? Let me check it again. Yeah, sigma is this number, sigma. And if I substitute this number into the which equation, for example, in here, and nu equals 170 plus 1.175 times sigma. From here you can find, let's copy this number first, 170 plus 1.175, yeah, 176. 176, right? Question 11. A mathematics class of 15 students plays a game which requires three equal sized teams. Find the total number of ways that the three teams can be chosen. Here we're gonna make combination. 15, for example, choose, and the size of the team will be 5 each, right? So first I can choose 5 people, and then remaining 10, we're gonna choose 10 choose 5, and then 5 choose 5. But here is a question because, for example, let's say that we have 4 people and we're going to divide it by 2. So in this case, our team can be either A, B, C, D. But for example, if you, let's write, that 4 choose 2 means there are 6 situation, right? So for example, one of them is this one, and the other one can be AC and the other team, like BD. But in here, you can also write, for example, CD and EB, which means that you already in here, for example, divided two team, which is AB and CD. And if you choose again CD again, you will do the same. So to cancel this, we're gonna divide it by 2 factorial in here, for example, the size of, I mean, like the amount of the teams. We're gonna do the same. There are 3 teams in here. To not take the same teams or divide it again, we're gonna divide it by 3 factorial. So let's find this. Yeah, first combination, 15 choose 5. This one is 3003. 126,126. Mhm. Question B. The game involves the spinning of a top. The time t in minutes that the spinning top is in motion can be modeled by the probability density function f, where here is the function. Show that this integral. Yeah, let's show it. Question B, right? Yeah. The limits of the integral is 0 and a in here, and the function is k times t times a to the power of minus 3t dt, right? Minus 3t dt. And we're going to find this integral. Uh, as you see from here, if we, for example, assume that t equals u and e to the power of minus 3t dt equals dv, it is integration by parts. So dt from here equals du, and we're gonna take the integral of this equation, and the integral of e to the power of minus 3t equals e to the power of minus 3t over minus 3 equal v. And from here you can write u times v, which is t times a to the power of minus 3t over minus 3, minus v times du, right? And e to the power of minus 3t minus over minus 3 dt, which is which will give us e times e to the power of minus 3t over minus 3, and integral of this exponential function, it is e to the power of minus 3t over, let's say, 9. because when you find the derivative of this function, it will give us minus 3 and we will cancel it. And our limit was 0 and a, and we're gonna plug in this values in here. First a times e to the power of minus 3i over minus 3 minus e to the power of minus 3i over 9. And I will subtract from this to when you, for example, replace t with a 0, you will see that here will give us 0, but the second expression will give us uh, 1, right? So, or 1 over 9, because e to the power of 0 is 1. Yeah, this one. Yeah, when you simplify this expression, you will see that let's find the common factor of this whole denominator is gonna be 9. So I will multiply the first fraction with minus 3. And this is minus and 1 over 9 is a common factor. In parentheses, you can write a times e to the power of minus 3a and minus, let's say, e to the power of minus 3a and plus 1, right? It will be. But we forget in here minus 3. Yeah, minus 3. And also there was a k in here. We're gonna multiply it with k, all of this expression, right? So let's simplify it again and write k over 9 times in parentheses e to the power of minus 3a times what was that we supposed to show the expression in here? Yeah, we can write 1 in here, 1 minus e to the power of minus 3a in parentheses. You can write 3a plus 1, I guess, right? Yeah, 3a plus 1. Is it? Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, the next question, use a L'Hopital rule to find this limit, okay? Limit x approaches infinity, and the function inside is 3x plus 1 times e to the power of minus 3x. Yeah. Um, you can write as a fraction in this expression, for example, 3x plus 1 divided by e to the power of 3x, right? It is the same with the, which is given in the question. And as you see that there is infinity over infinity, we can apply L'Hopital in this case. What is L'Hopital? We're gonna find the derivative both of the numerator and denominator. So if we apply the L'Hopital rule, for example, to do and to find the derivative of this numerator, you will see that 3, and the derivative of the denominator will be 3 times e to the power of 3x. In this case, when you again find the limit of this, since the denominator going to the infinity, so the result of this fraction will give us 0. Yeah. And at the second question of C hints by considering this limit, find the value of k. Okay, yeah, we're gonna write this limit. What is approach? A is approach to infinity, the integral limits 0 and a, and FOT dt, FOT dt. We found it right in previous question, this one, FOT dt, while the limit was this one. So I will use this expression in here, which is while the limit a approach to infinity, we're gonna find the limit of this function k over 9, 1 minus, let's write this, 1 minus e to the power of minus 3a times 3a plus 1. Okay, yeah. So let's think about that, how we're gonna find this. We already find here, right? We already find here the limit. You can write equal limit a approach to 0 and k minus 9 times 1 minus, let's say, limits a approach to infinity again e to the power of minus 3a times 3a plus 1, which was the limit of this expression was 0 in here. We can cancel this place. So we have now limit a approaches infinity k over 9, right? So, it equals um, the probability density function if it is, yeah, the total value of this probability density function will be 1, right? In this case, this limit will equal 1 and k equals 9 from here. Yeah. The last question is find the median length of time that the spinning top is in motion. So we're gonna find again the integral, but we don't know the up limit. Let's call it m, and the function f of t dt. The median means it will equal to half, right? Or 0.5, same. And how we're gonna find this? We know the integral of this function. We found it before in here. We can copy this, yeah, in here. So you will just write m in here instead of a, and will be equal half, right? So we found k also because, yeah, k is 9, so we can also cancel this. In this case, e to the power of 3m times 3m plus 1 will be equal 0.5, right? So let's find this. Yeah, this is the point C, which is 0.559. 0.559. Question 12. The curve C has equation 4x squared plus y squared minus 24x plus 4y plus 20. The following diagram shows C with a maximum point at A. Use implicit differentiation to show that dy over dx equals, yeah, I'm gonna write the equation again for x squared here. For x squared, let's say plus y squared minus 24x plus 4y plus 20. So first, let's find the derivative of this equation, all of these parts. The derivative of the first term we're gonna be 8, 6 plus derivative of y squared gonna be 2y times y prime minus 24 plus 4 times y prime. The constant, the derivative of constant is 0. And I'm looking for the y prime, which is dy over the x. dy over the x, in parentheses, you can write 2y plus 4 will be equal 24 minus 8 times 6. And dy over the x equals, we can cancel 2, 12 minus 4x divided by y plus 2, right? Yeah. And if you write the 4 common factor in here at the numerator, will be 3 minus 6 over y plus 2. We show at the first question. At the second question, hints determine the domain of C. Give your answer in the form, yeah, like this. Yeah, at the second question, it asks for hints determine the domain of C. Give your answer in the form like this. So we can think in a two different way this question. The first one is the easy one. Uh, for example, I know that the domain, which give us the x values, will be in this range, right? So, for example, if you think in regard of the differential equation and what's the derivative of a function or differential of a function at the point, it means the tangent of this, the gradient of this tangent, right? So I know that if I, for example, draw a tangent at the minimum point of the domain, it will be undefined, right? The gradient of this tangent will be undefined, 90 degree. In same manner, if you draw a tangent in here, and the gradient will be undefined, so which will give us a differential. In this case, if the derivative is undefined, it means the denominator will be 0. So yeah, y plus 2 will be 0, and I know that y equal -2, and the y value of this coordinate is -2. So how we're gonna find the x values of this coordinate? I will replace y with -2 in this equation, and we'll find the x values, okay? So 4x squared plus 4, the square of -2, minus 24x, minus 8, 4 times -2 is -8, plus 20 equals 0. It is 4x squared minus 24x and plus 16, right? And if you cancel 4, you will see that x squared minus 6 times 6 plus 4 equals 0, and which will give us that I cannot factorize this equation quadratic. So in this case, I will look for the discriminant of this equation. It is 36 minus 4 times 4. It is 20. And the one of the roots, or I can write both roots, and minus 6 plus or minus square root of 20, discriminant, divided by 2 times the leading coefficient is 1 here, right? So the rules will be if you cancel 2, or first write this one, 6 plus or minus 20. 20 means square root of 20 is 2 times square root of 5 over 2, which will give us 3 minus square root of 5. So I found this. In this case, um, question B will be 3 minus square root of 5 or 3 plus square root of 5, right? Yeah. So the second way to do this question is, I will show you the second way. I will delete this one. For example, I know that if we make equality with 0 of this equation, you will see that x will be 3, which means, for example, let's draw a sign table. It will start with negative sign and it will turn to positive because I know that here is negative, right? So it means this is the maximum point, right? As you see from here, the point A is maximum point and the x values in here is 3. So what is that? It is, uh, you know, the if you, for example, would love to write the x values, which is 3, you will find the y values of this. For example, if you call it b, you will find the y values of a and b, right? Which is 3 times 3 square, I mean 4 times 3 square, plus y square minus 24 times 3 plus 4 times y plus 20 equals 0. From here you can write y square plus 4y, let's say minus 16 equals 0. Okay, so I don't want to find y values. I just want to look, that the midpoint of this values, which is the sum of the roots, or the sum of the roots is y1 or y2 is minus 4. In this case, the middle of this roots, let's say here y sub 1, y sub 2. So in this case, the middle point of this value is minus 2, right? Which is half of minus 4. If you again replace y with minus 2, you will find again the same x values of the domain. And yeah, the minimum point and the maximum point of the domain. So this is the second way. Question C, find uh, point A. I know that this point, for example, we're gonna write 3 in this case to find the A coordinate, that is the x values of this coordinate. So I will use already this equation, right? And y square 4y minus 16. Yeah, we can now find the y value in here. first discriminant equals 4 square minus 4 times 1 times minus 16, right? Leading coefficient is 1. From here, 16 plus 64, which is 80. So y1 equals minus 4 plus square root of 80 over 2, 2 times 1. And I don't need to write y sub 2 because this value will be positive, which is the y coordinate, y value of the a coordinate, and I need this y sub 1, which is minus 4 plus 4 times square root of 5, right, over 2, and minus 2 plus 2 times square root of 5. Yeah. And this is the y coordinate. The x coordinate was 3, and the a point A is 3, and minus 2 plus 2 times square root of 5. Question D. A line y equals mx is a tangent to C where m is an integer. Find the possible values of m. Y equals mx, which is going from the origin in here, right? So how are we gonna find this tangent lines? So yeah, if you, for example, replace y with mx in this question, let's write it again. Question D, y square or 4x square, sorry, 4x square plus y square minus 24x plus 4y plus 20, right? Yeah. We're gonna plug in mx into this equation, substitute this one with y, 4x squared plus mx squared minus 24x plus 4 times mx plus 20 equals 0. It is 4x squared plus m squared x squared minus 24x plus 4mx plus 20, right? Let's combine like terms. For example, x squared in parentheses you can write 4 plus m squared, and x in parentheses 4m minus 24 plus 20 equals 0. So which means that if mx is tangent to this curve, it means the solution of this quadratic equation will has one root, right? And delta needs to be 0. Yeah, let's calculate delta in here. And I know that delta equals b squared minus 4ac. B is in here the coefficient of x, and a is the coefficient of x squared, and the c is the constant value. So delta equals 4m minus 24 squared minus 4 times 4 plus m squared times 20, right? Let's simplify this. Or we don't need to find, we just calculate directly with graphing calculating. Yeah, let's say for x minus 24 square minus 4 times uh, 4 plus x square times 20, right? It's going 1 and minus 4, the x intercept, so which will give us 0, 1 and minus 4. Question A, find y sub b, the y coordinate of b. But first it says the line y equals minus 4x towards c at point B. So I will just delete this. Let's say this line is passed through from here, and I know that, for example, the gradient of this line is minus 4, and the points in here is B. We're gonna find this point, right? Yeah. How we're gonna find this? You can just substitute again minus 4x in the equation, right? This one. Or you can directly write x in terms of y over minus 4, and replace x with this value, right? So 4 times y over minus 4 square plus y squared minus 24, again the same value, plus 4y plus 20. Yeah, let's find from here. Again, I will draw a graph. Or you can just simplify, it's easy. Y squared over 4 plus y squared is gonna be 6y, right? Combine like terms, 5y squared over 4 plus 10y plus 20, right? You can find from here. Yeah, so the point is minus 4. Y equals minus 4. The last question is the region bounded by the curve C, the y-axis, and the lines y equals y sub A and y equals y sub B is rotated 360 degree about the y-axis to form a solid of revolution. Find the volume of the solid formed. Okay, so what is y sub A? It is the y value of the coordinate A, right? We found it at the question C. This one, yeah, the first one. And the y sub B is, we found it in the previous question in here. It is minus 4, right? Yeah, y sub B is minus 4. So we're gonna, yeah. And we can, for example, draw the line in here and the other line in here, y sub A and y sub B. So the area between y-axis in here, the curve and this line. So we are just rotating this area. We're gonna write the integral in terms of y from minus 4 to minus 2 plus 2 times square root of 5. And we need to write the curve equation in terms of y squared. So we can find y squared. So we need to write this equation in terms of y. How are we gonna do that? First, you can write the completing square, and let's write first y terms, y squared plus 4y, and then in parentheses 4 times x squared minus 6 times x. Yeah, I would like to write here, for example, 9, because I know that here is gonna be square of x minus 3, and we have the constant value is 20. But from here you will have 36 and you can just subtract 16 in this case, right? So this is the same as given in the question. From here you can write again for this number also or expression it's gonna be y plus 2 squared and you will have the 4 as a constant number. And so our total at the end of this equation we have minus 20. Here is x minus 3 squared, right? Yeah. And we will write it in terms of y. So let's write it here. 4 times x minus 3 square equals 20 minus y plus 2 square. And x minus 3 square equals 20 minus y plus 2 square over 4. So while you finding x minus 3, you will find either positive or negative signs because we have the square of x minus 3. And yeah, let's write it in square root. Yeah, this one. So how we're gonna decide that this part is positive or negative? If you see that your impulse will be y, right? If you look for it in terms of y. So we want that the x values, the outputs will be less than the other part. In this case, I will choose a negative sign. So x equals 3 minus square root of this expression. Okay, and I'm gonna write the square of this expression into the integral in here, right? So let's copy this one and find this integral. Yeah, this is in terms of y. And do not forget to add p out of the integral and square of this. So when you calculate this, yeah, it is 29.7.
Yeah, we saw all of the questions. I hope this video was helpful for you. I will keep posting videos like this in New Year as well. I wish you a year full of happiness, success. See you in the next videos. Take care. Bye bye.